Hi, Tamily. We are getting ready to kick off interview number 182 with Sveta. Her handle is Work in Progress Sveta, so if you don't follow her, you can look her up and follow her now. And she will be joining in just a minute. And so once we get her in, we'll get started with the interview. Let's see. She might be here right now.
Hello.
Hey, it worked twice. It's our lucky day.
Yay. You did it.
Well, good afternoon. I know it just barely turned noon because I almost said good morning. It's so nice to see you and to meet you virtually anyway. We're really excited to talk to you today and get to know you and learn a bit more about your journey with the method and a whole bunch of other things. We do have some questions lined up, and I'll be scanning the chat and asking questions kind of as we go as well. So, why don't we get started? You can tell us a little bit about how did you get started with the method, and tell us a little bit about your journey and what you do today for the method.
Sure. So I got started with the method originally. I borrowed a DVD from a coworker a long time ago, like right after I gave birth to my daughter, who's now 10. And I found that, I did the DVD for 2 weeks. It was really hard keeping my arms up without
Yeah.
stopping. It was just really tough. So I returned the DVD and I forgot all about Tracy until the lockdown when we were all stuck indoors and I couldn't go to the gym and have my normal release. And someone recommended doing the Tracy Anderson method on Facebook. And at that point, I didn't use Instagram. It was just like I had an account, but it was dormant. I signed up for the 2-week trial, and there was something about the method that really I found to be like inspiring, and it had me moving in ways that I'd never moved before. It was challenging. It was hitting a lot of muscles that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And it initially started without any equipment, and it was like the heart of the pandemic where like you couldn't get toilet paper, so I couldn't get a mat, like I didn't have weights.
Yeah.
So I moved without any of the equipment, but I think it actually helped because I was able to find like the right angles without putting too much strain on my body.
Yeah.
So it was challenging without weights at all. And like even still, I hear from people like, they'll they'll take off the weights and they'll feel it differently and they'll see more results or they'll see different results. So yeah, it was just I think kind of perfectly aligned that I found the method, and then I listened to a lot of what Tracy was saying about growth, and then realized it's not just about movement, that it's more about like internal growth and like looking within. And she had been talking to really interesting people that I connected with through her, like Jim Quick. And I took his speed reading course, and I grew in like a completely different way than I anticipated from the method. I read more books during the pandemic than like I did any other year.
Yeah.
And so it was just like internal growth, and like my body was changing. It was amazing. So what I love about it now is it's really convenient. I don't have to go anywhere. Like I don't have to. Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
Perfect.
Yeah, and just like you don't have to commute. Like you wake up, you put on your clothes, you work out, or like you have a lunch break, you work out, and you can stream anytime. So it takes out like the going to the gym or like trying to find a class that fits into your schedule. So yeah, I really love it.
I totally get that. I mean, the ability to work out at home, because I think, at least for me, and I'm sure many others, like previously thinking of working out at home, you would never do it because you just think, oh, how am I going to get motivated to work out at home? But you're totally right. The benefit of cutting out a commute or finding something else where you have to hop across town or hit a different time that might conflict like with dinner or something like that, it is convenient to like wake up and go pretty much, or like you said, if you have an opportunity on your lunch break at home to be able to do it. I love to take advantage of that if if I ever have a chance. So I think that's really great. And I love what you talked about too in terms of diving in more and getting connected with other resources that Tracy has introduced to the community as well. So moving for your mind as well as for your body. I'd love to hear more about the speed reading course at some point in time because that's really interesting to me personally. When you have to read a lot, being able to do it quickly, I think is great. I am curious. So, just because when you commented at the beginning about starting with the DVD and like the arms part totally being a killer, how do you find it now doing streaming? Do you feel like your ability to jump into the method without equipment maybe gave you some more freedom, or did it help you like mentally work through that challenge of the arms? Because I'll never forget the matte DVD arms. They're still the hardest ones.
They are.
Sometimes I'll do it, but I'd be like, oh yeah, this is still really hard many years in.
Yeah, and now it's not as hard, and it's because I think I've built up some stamina. Some trainers are really hard, like Courtney's arms are a killer regardless. I could be rested and like jump in, and she is just so strong that like it's really hard for me to keep up, but I try.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll take the weights away and I won't use them, and that's one way I can get through the method. But what I find like with the recorded classes is Tracy like eases you into it. I think she's like very thorough and very smart with her approach. Like at first it'll just be a stretch, and then you're like warming up, and so it like eases you into it gradually. And then you can kind of like warm up, and your body like after a while it wants to move, and it feels good to stretch those muscles out and to find like that kind of expansion. So I crave that now, and I don't even like think about it too much. I just go.
So what's your routine like? Which program would you say you do the majority of the time now?
Yeah, I definitely do intermediate. I love to catch a live class.
Yeah.
Like it's a different level of energy. What I find with the live classes is the trainers are hitting different angles, and it's really dynamic. And also like you can't stop, you can't like pause. You have to just keep going, and then it's like it puts you to task. You get it done.
Yeah. The benefit too to the live is if you want to get it done in an hour and guarantee that you'll be done in an hour, do a live class because you can't go.
100% agree with that.
Yeah, but you're totally right too. The seeing the method performed through all the different trainers and the variety of music and tempo and pacing, I think it adds so much value. And like you described with the recorded class, I personally think it's great to start with that one for like 1 or 2 days, get familiar, and then go get your butt kicked in some lives.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you do intermediate. Do you ever experiment with any of the electives, or I feel like there's so many content options. Sometimes it's hard to think about when and where could I fit all this in, or do I want to? Do you do any of those or dance cardio?
Yeah. So like I feel good about my 5 days a week of IMC. That's like my sweet spot. And then if I have more energy, I love to add in some endurance. The endurance boost is 15 minutes, and it's like dance cardio. So you're like checking off a couple of boxes, and you'll get done. You'll kind of, you know, really be in a good place if you get it done a couple of times a week. That's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I could like explore other things, but I just feel like I'm getting the design with the IMC. Sometimes I'll do AMC on the weekends when I have more mental space. I mean, it is a lot of like jumping around is hard because you learn a routine, and it's a choreography in its own self, in its own space. And then you have to like jump and figure out a whole new choreography and try to understand like what angles you're getting at, which is, it's like a mental challenge, but it's a good one. And so sometimes like I love the chair.
Yeah.
And I'll do chair workouts in AMC. But if my standard is IMC, and then I won't really veer off unless I have a lot of time or mental space.
Yeah, that's smart, having the discipline for your own routine too, because then you're focused. You go in, you know what you're going to do, and you're going to be efficient. I also think sometimes jumping between classes, to your point, you're having to learn a different choreography, even if they're designed to have a similar like benefit on the body. It's still a different choreography, and that does add more time and the performance aspect because it's hard to perform while you're learning. And so keeping all of those balls in the air while you're doing it is definitely key.
Totally hear you about efficiency. I like to just like, I need to work out. I do it for my mental and physical health. And, sometimes just like overthinking it just takes up too much time. Go in, do, like follow Tracy, learn the moves, then like get into your own head, perform the moves, like be present, and get it done. And then move to the next thing that, like we're busy, we have a lot going on. So the more we can be efficient with our time, the better.
Completely agree with that. There's so many things competing for time and only so much of it every day. And so you have to allocate it, the best way for you. So thinking about kind of your evolution, if you started sort of in the beginning of the pandemic, you're probably coming up on like year 3 of consistent tamming, would you say?
21, 22. I think like year 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Yeah. I can't add anymore. I'm like, what year are we even?
Oh, this pandemic. Will it ever end?
Yeah. When you think about that journey, is there like a move or two that when you initially started felt much more difficult or even just mentally complex to wrap your mind around that now you feel like you can perform relatively well?
So I like have always had weakness in my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all the bridges, I remember the first time Tracy did a bridge, like the one-handed bridge where you like lift the other hand up.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening? Like, this is not what I signed up for. I can't do this. Or maybe I could do it on one arm, but not the other. And I think she did like three reps on each arm. And it was like just blowing my mind because as an adult, I had not done any bridges for like decades. And so like those were so hard for me. But like I slowed down and like, again, like I think Tracy is a creative genius. So she makes sure you like are strong enough in your core and in your like your center is strong so it can help you lift. So you're not lifting and like dumping into your shoulder. You're like you're up. You're like really elevating. And so and you have the strength to do that. So that move became a lot easier over time. And then like every time there's a pivot to the side of your whole leg, all those moves, those I found were just like really hard on the hip. And then, I read some of the comments in the Tamily, and it was because I was just using my hip to do it, to move, to rotate my leg out. But it was really like, it's a whole body move. So you have to, like, for me, I breathe out and so as I'm breathing out, I'm engaging my core. So that move became easier. And like, I'd never in my life done an inversion ever.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like just a mental block. Like you're standing in your head. I mean, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. If you didn't grow up doing it regularly, and then thinking about, okay, I'm going to try to do this in the middle of a workout that's kind of fast paced, and then make sure, I don't have a spotter or something like that. It takes time to get comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's physically challenging, but I think more so mentally overcoming blocks and like, it's like a head wall. Like I could not like see myself doing it. And then I once like just felt a sense of freedom and courage and, and I did it with like the wall spotting me. I still don't like throw it into all the routines because it is like to your point, it's a fast paced move. So I think Tracy's trying to build us up to it now again. So I'm going to ride this wave, hopefully get there.
Yeah. I agree with you. I feel like headstands and splits. It's like if you think they're going away, they're not. It feels every week a new one or another one, and you can't avoid it. Like if you normally do advanced and think, oh, I'm gonna go to intermediate for the week, there'll be a split in there that week.
Oh yeah, the splits have made it into all the workouts.
Like you can't hide from me on this. I will make you do it. That's too funny. Well, and that's really great too, even kind of as you described all of those moves and the evolution that it takes in the process of figuring out within your own body how to do it and not only rely on the specific area that it's targeting, but engaging your whole body to do it. I know what you're talking about with the leg to the side. I struggle with that too. And I think if you have tighter hips, I don't know if that's like a clinical diagnosis, but I feel like I have them. And so in some directions, they just don't want to open at all. In other directions, they'll be fine. So figuring out how to move in the method in your body is totally key. So
Yeah, yeah, for
how
sure.
did,
And it's, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think, over time, it probably gets easier, do you think?
Well, maybe simpler, but I don't know. Sometimes physically easier, depending if the week that is designed maybe plays more to where you have strength. It can feel easier because you're like more in flow. And then if there's a week that's designed to some of the areas that it's like your body needs to work on, it can feel really hard and
Yeah.
frustrating. Um, but I always say if it feels easy, you're probably missing something, at least for me, because I'm like, every class is hard. Even an intermediate class will feel hard 4 or 5 years in. Um, if you do the work to get the most out of it. So,
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah. If you're moving like super fast or especially with the weights, I feel like that can be a tricky part for everybody coming into the method and not assuming that more weight is better and also making sure that you're not just like pushing through the weight, but thinking about how is the weight one with my leg and being able to lift that is tricky. Oh yeah, Nat says never easier. It's true. I feel like sometimes it just gets harder. But we love it more, so you have fun and you enjoy the challenge instead of feel potentially frustrated by it. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think people coming in to the method from like doing maybe more like high intensity work, they have this like way of working through things, like pushing through, and like the heavier the better. But it's not always, because if you're going heavier, you might not be hitting that right angle, and
Yeah.
then you're like missing the whole point. And no two classes are going to be the same, so it's challenging, I think, for everyone, like continuously.
Yeah. Totally agree. So I'm curious, you talked about in the beginning, like you weren't really active on Instagram, you had an account that was dormant. How did you kind of get into the Instagram side of things and how did you find the Tamily?
So this is, I think, like a call to Tracy to kind of get more people into the Tamily. She had Courtney come to the Florida studio during the pandemic, and she introduced Courtney and her handle on Instagram. And like at that point, I was like, oh, people are on Instagram doing workouts, or like I had no idea what she was really talking about. So I
Okay.
had to investigate.
Yeah.
So I like went in and started following Tracy Anderson, and then she puts clips of people. So I'm like, oh, those are people I should be following.
Yeah.
So then I'll follow those. And there, and that's opened up the community to me. And I am just so grateful. Everyone is so supportive, really, really wants to help. And like, very gracious, will respond to questions like really quickly, will like offer generous advice. Where else in social media do you find like
Yeah.
people who are so nice?
Yeah. I think it definitely makes an impact too. And one of the things that we're curious to learn from people too is, in your personal experience, how does, having a community like the Tamily affect the results of your workout effort? Like, do you feel like it enhances what you're able to do with the method or your consistency with the method? Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that?
100% it helps. Well, like if you're in a physical space and you have people who are working hard and you see that, that pushes you to work hard as well. And it's like infectious. It's like a group mentality.
Yeah.
And the same thing here. Like people look so cute in their outfits and they're working really hard and you can see that they have this, like they've achieved amazing results. They show up, they post, they put inspiring messages into their feed. And that's, like sometimes when I'm not like ready to work out, I'll, turn on IG and I'll get motivated.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. And the more like people just like create great content, the more I'm inspired to work out and to strive for that. It's just, you're in this reaffirming environment where we're hyping each other up, we're, boosting each other up. It's amazing. It's such a great community. I'm so passionate about it. And it just like, it yields a lot of what you put in yields a lot. So yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too, thinking about is kind of you can get out of it what you put into it. There are some people that probably casually watch the Tamily or like wonder what is this or something. But then once you start engaging too and you get that benefit of interacting and then you also feel better and feel more motivated and therefore want to pay it forward. And so I think it kind of perpetuates that within the community, which is great, when we think of the sustainability and longevity of that, and then how it complements the method and all the great content that Tracy creates and that she and her team deliver. I think it's like this really beautiful thing. So very cool.
And like, yeah, and like big kudos to you, Emily, and to Suzanne, who, show up every week to do these interviews. And every time I tune in, I get some like pointers, something that drives me to like reconsider, open my mind, recommit. It's so good to hear people working out and their journeys. And there's something like from that, even that in itself is contributing to like other people wanting to do better work. And so thank you to
Yeah.
you.
Well, we appreciate it. Our goal is to talk to everyone in the Tamily, so we're going to be doing this until we're like 90. Because we love to learn from everyone in the community too. I mean, just like you guys are learning every time we talk to someone new, and even understand, all over the world too, which we want to get more into international interviews as well, and just hearing, what different things work for people, and everybody can kind of learn from that and apply it if they want to, or whatever. So I think that's really cool. I'm curious about your handle. Can you tell us about your handle, because I just love the name of it, Work in Progress Veta. How did you come up with that, and how does that fit in for you?
So, we are constantly working on ourselves and trying to improve and, not stagnating, putting ourselves into new opportunities that will give us growth. So it's not like, I think someone had been doing this like challenge, which I thought was really cool. But then I was like, well, you can't like think about getting the perfect, bathing suit body for the summer. That's like, it's short-sighted. It's, yes, you want to have that, but then like you also want to have the winter body that's healthy. So it's a progress. It's like you're constantly moving through it, and you improve one thing today, you'll have another opportunity to continue to improve something else tomorrow. So it's never like a destination, it's a journey. So it's like cliche, but that's kind of how I feel.
No, I like that. And even framing it that way keeps you comfortable with saying that you're always growing and learning. right? And when you have that type of mindset, I feel like you can be more open to new experiences or trying a new move or a new headstand, or who knows, maybe one day I always joke and say we're going to be levitating in one of the upcoming classes. Tracy will just levitate. So we'll be like, how are we going to do that? But it keeps
Don't
you,
give her any new ideas.
you never know. She is like superpower, so she might surprise us one day. But yeah, I think it's a very healthy mindset, and thinking how however many years ahead we all have, and improving the quality of our health, so that we can do the things that we want to do as we age and be healthy in all seasons, is definitely important. So
Absolutely.
we have a question from Kylie in the chat. She's more curious about the speed reading as well. So I don't know if we'll take a quick detour and you could tell us a little bit about the speed reading course. And, in your perspective, did you learn how to just read faster, but, keep the same comprehension? And she wants to know, what's your favorite book? So we have a couple of questions.
Oh, good question. So, like Jim Quick gives you some pointers to get you to read faster. One that is like a very quick way to improve your reading speed is to just use your finger to kind of help your eyes move along the page quicker. And then, so you're shaving off some time by doing that. The other thing is not to verbalize in your mind like certain connector words like a, the, or. And you don't need to say those words to yourself to understand the text. So you can so you're not saying all the words in your mind, but you're still comprehending the words. So by removing that aspect of the reading, just doing those two things, and I did kind of like the the placebo, and then with these tips, I was able to improve my speed. But he, like, if you look up Jim Quick, you can find he does like a free course, and then there's a 30-day course to improve reading speed. And then, like, what is my favorite book? I loved recently The Island of Sea Women.
Oh,
it's so good. And also I would recommend A Gentleman in Moscow. Those two books. I like reading books that kind of get you on many levels. Like there's a tearjerker, there's inspiration. So those two I found to have all those components.
okay. Well, I think those are awesome tips, and I'm definitely going to apply them, and we'll have Kylie report back.
Let us know.
Yeah, we'll definitely report back. That's really interesting too, thinking about how to kind of skip over some of the simple words that you don't need. So I don't know, I'm going to read later today, and I'm going to just try it and see if I can kind of connect the dots in my mind with what does that mean? Because yeah, I guess you're right. When you're reading, you're reading it on the page, but you're interpreting it and saying it sort of in your mind. And so if you can say it faster, then you can read faster. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And ultimately your goal is not to say it in your mind at all.
Okay.
Yeah, to just look at the word, because your brain, by looking at it, is comprehending it. But like our, second grade teachers wanted us to read out loud. And so they made us internalize saying it in our minds. So if you just remove that step, you'll still be able to comprehend it. But I mean, give it a try.
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited. I'm going to give myself a little homework for this afternoon. So shifting back a little bit to the method, like, how do you stay motivated to work out on a regular basis now that you're 2+ years in? What do you find really helps and works for you?
So Tracy actually mentioned this in her talk this week. Like, you don't want to get too into your head and like ruminate and like think about which program am I going to do. Like, oh, I'm going to get up in 5 minutes. Or, you just like think about it like laundry, like brushing your teeth. You have to do it, and don't overthink it. Turn the TV on and just go. Because if you give yourself a lot of time to start, having this complicated conversation, and like I think she calls it fidgeting in your mind, you're likely to like waste a lot of mental energy on that. and that's going to take away from actually doing the work. And like also, and I've heard a lot of people say this, like, I need to work out. And like, you know, we have a primal right to work out. And this is also like a Tracy quote. We don't think twice about like walking our dogs. You know, we know that our dog, if they're not walked, is going to chew up the pillows. So they need to get their energy out.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, you know, humans, like we need to move or else we're going to, you know, chew up some pillows. Like we're going to take that energy that we're, you know, like we wake up with, and we're going to have to use it in some way. So you have to use it in a positive way. So, you know, get up, work out, and it doesn't even have to be get up, work out. Find the time during the day, lunchtime, evening, work it out. And then you find your like calmness. Like I have, you know, I have a lot of nervous energy, and you know, like I need to work out that energy, move it through my body. So for me, it's like my family knows, you know, that if I'm not, you know, if I'm not my best self, maybe I haven't worked out that day. So it's good for everyone to just, you know, like push me to the mat.
Yeah. I like that. I would love to hear your thoughts on, you know, you mentioned that your general routine is like 5 days a week, right? And so then it's balancing working out your energy every day, but you don't necessarily have to hit the mat 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because I think a lot of people forget rest is part of the method too, not just resting at night. Um, and so how do you personally deal with that? Like, are there other things that you do on the days when you're not necessarily going to hit the mat that help you work out some of that nervous energy? What would you share with the Tamily on that?
So like rest is so important.
Mhm.
And I actually listened to a podcast recently about like finding like assessing yourself. And I know a lot of us wear smart watches and they can tell you like your, you know, what is your capacity for the day. There's like a breathing exercise to do that you can also test your capacity for the day. And like you take a few deep breaths, and then on your fifth deep breath you exhale. And if you're able to exhale for a long period of time, then your nervous system has recovered from prior days and you're in a good place, at least from your nervous system, to have another workout. So sometimes when I feel like a little run down, I'll see like in the morning how I feel. Some days it's okay to just veg. Like you know, don't like be so hard on yourself. People like it's okay to just take it easy, to sit and watch TV. Like sometimes your body just needs to like shut down and like really sit and vegetate. So some days I will do that, and then the next day I'll feel so much more prepared to like give it my all. And like the next day, like after a rest day, my workouts are phenomenal because I have all this extra rest and recuperation. So it's yeah. But like on some, you know, on days that I do have the time and still have the energy, but maybe um, don't do the mat, I'll like go for a walk, or I love to in the winter go skiing. It's such a it's you're outdoors, you know,
Yeah.
you're recharging yourself with being in nature, and you know, as long as you have the right clothes, you don't feel cold.
Right.
So I think that's like a really good way to be outside, and some, you know, just get some like walking in if possible.
Thank you for sharing that because I feel that everyone needs to hear it. It's at least what I personally have seen maybe in my, you know, 4+ years doing the method and being involved with the community is it starts out to where you're working on building consistency, right? Depending even what workout was maybe done in the past. And so the goal is to become more consistent. And then your mind loves it. You wake up and you're like mentally craving it, but your body may not be there, right? And so sometimes I'll see that people are forcing themselves through a workout. Maybe they didn't get good sleep because their child was up sick for multiple nights in a row or all these other things. And so then the maturity comes in with figuring out an alternative. So, like you said, go for a walk, or sometimes it's veg out, or sometimes it's read a book, because it's going to be so much better for you to have 5 strong workouts in the week than 3 strong workouts and like two mediocre ones and two where you're just like slogging through it because you're so tired. And so it's up to everybody to find out what that balance is. And we probably all go through our own version of that. But I really appreciate you sharing that because I think it will help a ton of people. So thank you. So,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, I'm not an overachiever or perfectionist, like in any way. Like, I'm good with cruising with like an A minus. You know, some days
yeah,
I'll veg, and I'll be okay with that.
it's still an A, is what I like. Right?
Even a B plus, like B plus is still good.
Even plus, is still good. You know, not everybody, no one can be 100% every day, not even Tracy herself. And she created the method. So it's just good to keep that in mind. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves or remind each other that it's okay. So I appreciate that. And in that vein, there's, I don't know her name, but her handle is Here for It All blog. And she has a question for you that I think is going to be kind of timely for this. She wants to know if when you do the dance cardio more or equal to the mat. So I think what she's asking is if the mat class is an hour, are you supposed to do an hour of dance cardio? Because that can be really exhausting. And so in her experience, she was like really overwhelmed from trying that. So would you mind sharing some of your thoughts on that type of question? And how would you recommend that someone get started when they're considering the method so they don't burn themselves out immediately with all of the content and all of the things?
Yeah, so great question. Like I don't do dance cardio regularly. And what I've heard from like trainers when I've reached out, when I'm like, oh, but I want to see a little bit more improvement here or there, they're like, okay, well, you have to add dance cardio. So like I'm at the kind of opposite extreme where I'm like, oh, okay, some dance cardio. But like I know some people are super athletic and they just have that, you know, the drive and the ability and the energy to do some dance cardio. And like, I think no trainer recommends doing it as much as muscular design. Like, even Tracy has said it's an add on. So, you know, she cares most about the muscular design because that's where you're going to get the most benefit. Dance cardio is great, like, at least from what she said, for stamina, for losing a little weight, you know, for seeing like a little bit more defined result, but definitely not every day. It's, you know, a few times, even like Loretta's, you know, Loretta, who's like our, you know, our champion, our all-star.
Yeah.
I don't think she does, you know, dance cardio every day, like maybe 2, 3 times a week. I don't know. I mean, that's my understanding. So don't like burn out. The dances are really fun to learn when you have the time. And it's always like when it clicks, you feel like so good. But like I think, you know, you and I, Emily, are on the same page. Like you don't want to do more dance cardio and you don't want to do it every day.
Yeah. Give yourself a chance to recover. And I couldn't agree with that assessment more. Even I've never met Tracy, but just, you know, hearing what she said over the years and hearing from her trainers, you've got to kind of take it easy and think about setting yourself up for the long haul and not just a short term quick fix. So it's probably better to have a great energized performance workout with your mat work and skip dance cardio than to like slog through and then try to do dance cardio when you're tired and you know all those kind of things. But yeah, everybody's got to find their own way too. So with all the advice, you still have to. The best way to learn what's good for you is to try it yourself. But Here for It All blog, you should tell us your first name. But just start kind of small would be my suggestion, especially if you're totally new to the method. Just do one of the classes and focus on that for a while. And then if you're still interested in DC, work that in later so you don't feel like you have to tackle everything today. All
Yeah.
right. So I have like a question for you selfishly because I love curly hair and I got to see your photos posted and there's photos of your darling children and your husband and even one with your mom. So it looks like curly hair runs in your family. Your hair looks beautiful today too, though.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about like your curly hair routine, if you don't mind. Like, how do you do your hair on a normal day? And does it work easier for Tam if you don't have to like straighten it out?
Oh, well, so, now that I work from home, I don't straighten out my hair unless it's a special occasion.
Okay.
But I do a lot of like leave-in conditioner. I have a really good conditioner I use. I'm going to share it with you. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll ping you after. And it's good for fully moisturizing your hair in the shower, but then you can also use it as a leave-on. So I'll
Ooh.
just like put in the leave-in conditioner and let my hair dry normally, and it like weighs it down a little bit so it's not frizzy. And
Mhm.
then it just sort of like, or I'll like sleep with a braid so then I don't wake up with crazy hair. But like, um, yeah, I mean, us curly hair girls, we have, I think, society's being more open minded to curly hair now. But yeah, it's a style.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, your hair looks so gorgeous, so it's amazing if you can just put in some leave-in conditioner and go. I'm like, that's awesome. And it looks like your little ones maybe have a little bit of curl or a little bit of wave too. So I don't know if you have to like teach them any tricks or they just kind of figure it out as they go and get older.
Oh my goodness. I like spent so much time brushing out the knots for my daughter's hair. And she like loves to leave it down. I love to leave mine up. Like I'll put it up because it gets out of the way, but she is always leaving it down. And then like I just, brushing out those knots.
Yep. Older, she'll kind of figure it out and be like, oh yeah, it might be easier to put it up. But well, that's cute. Well, I'm curious also, so what do your little ones think? And also, what does your husband think about the method and kind of the change in you maybe over the past couple of years since you've been doing it more consistently?
So my son was the first one who noticed that like my butt was lifted. He's like,
Oh,
Mom.
nice.
I was like, yes. First of all, yay, somebody noticed, but also it's working. But yeah, they know. Like they used to not really like appreciate that it was mom time and like me time, and that I'm home working out. So like I'm home, so I'm not available at that time. So sometimes they'll come in and they'll ask me questions, and if I'm like still able to like breathe and talk, I'll answer those questions. But at other points, they just know like, okay, she'll be done, and then whatever it is, it can wait. It can usually wait.
Yeah, good for you for having boundaries. And the kids will adapt, so they'll realize, oh, it's not a good time to ask mom. wait, wait 20 minutes or something until she's done. But also kudos to your son for giving out some compliments and attention. Old sweetheart. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, do you have like a dedicated workout space or how do you fit it in like in your home?
So we have like a piano room that, I try to get the kids to play, but mostly it's just my camp space.
Yeah.
So, I have a mirror, which, like I think is really important for people to see themselves move so that you can kind of like, oh, you think you're moving the same way that the trainers are moving, but like you may not see that your foot is not going the exact same way, or like, always like look at the shoelaces. Like, are my shoelaces the same place as the trainers? Am I, generally looking the same? Am I leaning in? Are my like this one took a while for me to crack. When I see Tracy's elbow bending, I was like, why is her elbow bending? Am I just supposed to bend my elbow? But like she's actually leaning down and leaning into her arm, like, or toward the mat. And it just like I couldn't crack that one for the longest time. But then it makes a big difference the way you move and where you feel it.
Oh, totally. I remember thinking the same thing of like, why, what is that doing? But then when you realize she's using the floor to create more resistance and push away.
Hmm.
Um, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, light bulb moment. You should always be having some type of force against your body, whether you're creating it yourself via lengthening or, how you are extending, contracting your limb or whatever it might be, um, versus using the floor if that's what you have. So yeah, you're not like, oh, I'm just in this position, kind of, in a push up or something. You're like, oh, I'm lifting up. And maybe that's where the levitation moves will come
Yeah,
out of
that's
that.
actually, I hadn't thought about that, like using the floor as resistance, but I'm gonna keep that in mind
Yeah.
now.
And it will help you stay light and not like, because sometimes when people are new to the method, they complain about pain in their wrist. I know I complained about it when I was new, but because I was just kind of putting all my weight into it instead of sort of like you mentioned, staying lifted throughout, and you're really using your whole body in every move. But it takes a while for your mind to wrap itself around that and then get your muscles to cooperate. So it's a
Yeah,
journey.
you have to build up the strength to do it. And like I thought I was strong, but like I was strong only in some areas. Like I had strong like legs, but that wouldn't do it. That wouldn't keep your body lifted as you're, you're not pressing into your wrists. You're like lifting out of your arms and like,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I had strong legs until one of the classes when Tracy was first introducing the chair again, and there was like some plie moves or something, and I was thinking, my legs are going to collapse right now.
Well, I did some ballet as a child, so I was like, "Ooh, I love this. Bring me more."
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you talked about paying attention to shoelace direction, which I think is also very important in trying to determine if your leg is turned out or in or just parallel. But you had shared something, I'm assuming, with Kristen, so I want to ask you a little bit about it in terms of the right way to tie your shoelaces, because I have a constant problem with my shoelaces coming untied every time. So please give us some insight.
I don't think that was me.
It wasn't.
I mean, I do the double knot.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm curious now what Kristen had in mind.
We're gonna have to select shoelace advice. I think Rachel, she might have had like a shoelace tip or even done a demo. I'll see if I can find it and then I'll share it out with everyone because I need to relearn it apparently myself. I would find that if you have round laces, they're much more prone to coming untied, even if you double knot, even if you loop it underneath. So I'm like, maybe I'll try some duct tape over the top and see if that works. Um, all right. So did you ever do like a trainer consultation, or you mentioned like getting some feedback from trainers and stuff like that? Can you tell us some of your experience there?
So that's on my to-do list for 2022 to like have the trainer eval. I've just reached out to trainers when I've had questions about like if they do the breakdown and I'll, not be really clear on something. And they're always so fantastic. Everyone is so helpful. Olivia, Lashana is such a sweetheart. And I think like just to encourage anyone who is kind of on the fence of like, should I reach out? I'm not sure, I need some help, I need some guidance, like don't hesitate. Like, okay, fine. I mean, maybe there's like one person in 100, but that's very unlikely that they're not going to respond. Most people are so helpful and they really want to see you improve. So that's what I've experienced at least.
Yeah, that's a good point. You'll have to keep us posted too when you do a consult. It's like no other. So you get feedback right from the source about you in particular instead of like more general insight. So that'll be fun. And Kristen responded. She said the shoelace thing. So I must have misinterpreted it when I read it, but she said it was more about how you hold the leg. So probably when you're performing the move, paying attention to the shoelaces. And of course, my mind went to how do I tie my shoes? Who
Well,
knows?
if you're, yeah, I mean, you got to like take care of the basics. It's, it's a pyramid of needs. Like if your shoelace is untied, you can't do the move.
Well, or you're prone to tripping or something like that, which you don't want to do. Um, well, I'm curious, like, what's your favorite workout attire? What's your like go-to tan uniform?
I'll do like a sports bra and I'll do leggings. And the reason for that is like someone said this in the Tamily. If you have your like middle, open, you can actually see yourself engage the muscles more and you're more like in, aware. So you're like, you kind of are seeing yourself in action. Like, oh yeah, I should be more lifted or I need to like angle it this way or that way. So yeah, I mean that would be like that's my go-to, and I love things simple. Give me a uniform in many colors, and that's what I'll wear.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
overthink it, just do it.
yeah. And what about your shoes? What are your favorite kind of shoes for the mat?
Um, Not like that particular sneakers. Yeah.
As long as it's a sneaker and in decent shape, you're good to go.
Exactly. I try to work out without shoes because like we have some Tamily members that have like gorgeous elongations. Uh, Jessica Zeitgeist, she works out without shoes, and I tried it a few times, and I think like it is nice, but then someone cautioned me against doing that because like they had like a family member that broke a toe doing it. So then I was like, all right, I'll wear the sneaker.
Yeah. I tried it like once or twice. It can be okay in moves where you're not like doing a lot of push-ups or something, to where you might, yeah, you don't want to break a toe or something like that. That would not be fun. But yeah, it can look pretty. Um, yeah, I don't know.
And like some people are just really aware of their bodies and like they're, they get the better extension when they're, bare feet. But for me, like sometimes I'm just moving through things quickly and I do feel like, oh, I'm glad I had a sneaker that gave me a little bit cushion.
Yeah. Yeah, or even support too, so you don't like end up overextending a tendon or something like that in your foot because yeah, that could be tough. And I would definitely say never do DC barefoot would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Do not try that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question. I don't know their name either. E Samanti? Samsanti. I can't read today. Anyway, wants to know if have you ever had an injury when you're doing TAM? Have you ever had any challenges like that you've had to work through?
I haven't been injured from doing the method, but I have had injuries from other things.
Mm-hmm.
But like the method, there are a lot of ways to do it gently so that you can do it as you're recovering. So this summer, we were wave jumping in Maryland and I got like caught in a wave. I got spun around and I like hit myself against the sand with my shoulder and that like caused a lot of injury. So for a long time, I couldn't do a lot of the moves and I had to modify a lot. But I was able to still keep moving because I was making modifications. I was doing it gently. I wasn't pushing myself, not using any weights. But yeah, like don't, and that's the other thing, like don't overuse your muscles. Like don't do the 7 days of muscular design and then cardio because that could lead to like, you might see results in the moment, but your joints might be like stressed. So you want to have those rest days built in. And yeah, but I haven't been injured, thankfully.
Good. Yay. Knock on wood. Stay
Knock
healthy.
on wood. Thank you.
Um, so here for It All blog, her name is Christina, by the way. So thank you for sharing that. She wants to know what is your best advice for beginners? And I think this is a great question for all beginners out there with the method. What would you say to them?
So for me, like doing the method, the biggest challenge was learning choreography.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this can apply to everyone, but what I would say is like, be gentle with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Show yourself some self-love. Do the positive talk. Um, but like what I would do is new content would come out on Thursdays, and like Thursdays would be the hardest day for me mentally. I'd be like, oh my God, I have to learn all this new stuff. And so I would just take Thursday off, and that would be my way of like cleansing from the prior week, letting go of all the moves I had learned. And then I would start Friday and I just would have mental space to learn again. And so learning as an adult is like a huge accomplishment. And thank you, Tracy, for giving me this opportunity. Um, so that's like one thing. If that's your challenge, give yourself like the mental space to clear things out and then come back to it. I think, maybe learning without weights. For me, it happened because I just couldn't access weights at the time, but it did help me to strengthen up my body and like get used to the moves and like learn the kind of the ways that we move in this method. So without like weights, it made it more accessible.
Yeah.
And then biggest thing, like please reach out to the Tamily if you have questions. Everyone, like, and I think that's the reason I stuck to it. Cassie is lovely and I love her and she is my like go-to. I like will, watch what she's doing, take her recommendations. And like, there's so many people who want to support you and want you to do well. Also, you know, like, people do Zooms, they get together, and that helps you to like stay committed, to have someone to be accountable to. Like, Emily or I can help you connect to that community. So just, you know, please reach out if you're a beginner. There's a lot of resources out there.
I would echo all of that. I think it's a great way to start, not overwhelm yourself, and just, take it one day at a time too. And I love the advice about starting without weights. I did that too, not in the pandemic, but just because I didn't know what I was doing. And also, like with the mat DVD, I don't remember using like ankle weights in that. Maybe I'm just not remembering, but I feel
I
like
know.
there weren't ankle weights, and it's amazing just learning how to use and engage your own body will definitely give you results too. And it helps you get that form kind of internalized so that when you do add weights, you can be safe in how you add those and don't risk injury. So, all right. Well, I can't believe how much time is going by. We have just a couple of minutes. So I want to give everybody in the chat a chance to type any last question in that they might have. But while we're waiting for that, I would ask you, is there anything else that you would like to share with this audience while you have them together?
Um, I'm thinking, I had some notes. Be patient with yourself. If you know what you're able to do over time is different than what you're able to do in the moment. So stay committed, stay disciplined, be consistent, do your best, love yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself if you don't get it perfectly. Um, yeah, but for sure, keep coming back to it. You're going to get a lot of rewards mentally and physically from this method and from the community.
Perfect advice. What a great way to close, too. Well, it has been wonderful to get to know you virtually. I hope I get to meet you in person one day. I do travel to the Northeast for work, pandemic aside. So when I'm able to do that again, if I'm in your neck of the woods, I'll reach out and see if we can meet up and grab a coffee or something like that. It would be so nice to see you in person. But
Definitely, please do reach out.
yes, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you on the mat in the Tamily community very soon. Have a great day, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.